So now that the 2023-24 season has officially concluded for Bradford City, and it is confirmed that we will be playing League 2 football again at next campaign, in today's video I'll be bringing you guys my retained and released list for the players whose contracts are set to expire this summer. If you do go on to enjoy, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try and hit 100 likes on today's video, that would be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We are now on the road to 9,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already, with that post notification bell on. It's free to do so and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts in as well down in the comment section down below. Let me know down below which players you want to keep for next campaign, which players do you want to loan back maybe, and which players do you definitely believe aren't good enough to be here next season and should be released by the end of their contracts. Now I think I'm right in saying there are 18 players' contracts who are set to expire this summer, 3 of them being loans and quite a number of them are currently out on loan away from the football club. You think to players such as Finkers and Dawson, Luke Hendry, these are players who are still contracted to Bradford City. I'm going to go through and discuss them all in a completely random order, but we're going to start out firstly with the loans. We'll start out then with Jonathan Tompkinson, and he is a man who I will be looking to retain for next campaign. Now according to Transfermarkt, his contract with Norwich is actually set to expire this summer, but I have a feeling that that's not accurate. I'm pretty sure recently he did sign a new long-term contract with Norwich. If obviously that is true and his contract with Norwich does expire this summer, then we should be doing everything we can to try and get him in on a permanent deal. But at 22 years of age, came in on the final day of deadline day in the summer, but then it took a few days for his international clearance, I believe, to go through. We eventually got him in through the door under Mike Hughes, and then he didn't really kick a ball. Mike Hughes got the chop, didn't really get much of a chance under Kevin McDonald. Graham Alexander came in, and once Tompkinson came into the side, he struggled really to come out of it. He's only not been involved in the last couple of starting 11s because he went away with USA for a little bit and then struggled really to get back into the team. Daniel Yagoke has been pretty solid in there as well. And for me personally, Tompkinson I think would be a really, really good signing for us. If we can get him permanently, obviously that would be an unbelievable signing, but even getting him back next season on a loan deal, I think he's proven in his 23 matches that he has played in the league for us so far this season, 17 of them being starts, that he's more than good enough to be playing at League 2 level. I think he's 6'3", 6'4", so he brings a bit of height, but he's a very good ball playing centre half, a lot of pace as well, which is not something we've got in a lot of these other defenders. He's kept 7 clean sheets in them 17 starts, averaging 1 interception per game, 1.7 tackles per game, 4.4 balls recovered per game, and 3.1 clearances per game as well. He wins 54% of his ground duels and 50% of his aerial duels. He has committed 1 penalty offence, which was at Crewe away on New Year's Day, but on the whole for me, Tompkinson has had a very good season and certainly something to build on. Like I say, if we can get him back permanently, that'd be an unbelievable signing, but I think getting him back on loan would even be a little bit too much of an ask. I do certainly see him playing his football in League 1 next campaign, but for me personally, Tompkinson is a man we should be looking to retain. Tyreek Wright is the next loan that we're going to be talking about, and in my personal opinion, I would be looking to release him. I don't think he's shown enough in his second loan spell with the football club to try and get him back either permanently or definitely not on loan for next campaign. Now I don't know when his contract with Plymouth does expire, but I'm pretty sure it is at least until the end of next season because he signed quite a long-term contract with Plymouth. I certainly don't see him playing in the Championship or League 1 next season with Argyle. I see him getting another move back to League 2, but I don't see that being with Bradford City. He's just not shown enough. He's looked disinterested for the large part, has really struggled to play in a front three as a winger, recently moved to wing back and started out there okay, but has never really performed at above a 7 out of 10. He got a brace in one of the games, and you would think a player who scored a brace would probably get man of the match, but in my personal opinion, I thought he had a really, really poor game in that. I don't think he's played a single game with an 8 out of 10 or higher rating. I just don't think he has provided enough consistent performances in his time. We knew he was going to struggle out to start with because he hadn't played much football and it was going to take him a few games to get up to speed, but now that he should be up to speed, and he has played the 14 matches for us in total in League 2, 11 of them being starts, 2 goals and no assists, and like I say, both them 2 goals came in the same game. His discipline isn't particularly great. He has picked up 5 yellow cards in just the 11 starts. His defensive stats are quite poor, 0.4 interceptions per game, 0.9 tackles per game, 0.7 clearances per game as well. He's had 1 error, which has led to a shot. I think that was Walsall away off the top of my head, but for me personally, he just hasn't contributed enough this season in a Bradford City shirt. Last season under Mike Hughes wasn't too bad, obviously 12 starts, 4 goals, 2 assists, playing as a left winger. This season though, under Graham Alexander, it's not been the same, and a man who I wouldn't be looking to have around again for next season. Brentford loanee Daniel Yagoke is up next. Now in my personal opinion, if we can get him back permanently, I would retain him. him. If we can only get him back on a loan and he signs a new contract with Brentford, I wouldn't be interested. But as a permanent signing with his contract set to expire with Brentford this summer, I do think he could be a decent pickup. Now, don't get me wrong, he started out life under Mike Hughes absolutely terribly, got sent off on his debut, and then in the matches after that, massively didn't impress. Alexander came in, got him for 10 minutes, and then he picked up an injury where he was out for 3-4 months, something like that. Since he's come back into the side, though, I don't think he's been awful. He's had some really good games, still made some mistakes, but just 21 years of age, you would probably expect him to do so. His positioning, his strengths, his weaknesses are long balls, according to SofaScore, and I will probably agree with that. Defensively, at times, he can look a little bit frail, and when you're coming up against big physical strikers, he does struggle a little bit, but on the ball, he's proven that he can be a very good player. He manipulates the ball very well. He's very versatile as well. Has played quite a lot as the right centre-back under Graham Alexander, and he's kept Jonathan Tompkinson out the side. He's actually played over 50% of our league matches this season, starting 15 and playing in 24 in total. No goal contributions, but defensively, not too bad. 1.5 interceptions per game, 1.3 tackles per game, 4.1 at balls recovered per game, and 1.6 at clearances per game. Now, don't get me wrong, I could massively understand the argument for wanting better than Daniel Yagoke, but I think on a free transfer to have that continuity, I always struggle with that word, but having him here this season and hopefully having him for the next couple of seasons, I think will be really good for him. Again, a young player, so you're thinking about the model that the club are trying to go for, someone who we could potentially sell for decent money later down the line. Very versatile, can play right centre-back, right wing-back, right midfield, central midfield, and I think that's important for us. He's got a good physical size, and overall for me, he's not one of them which is a dead cert, and I think we absolutely need to do everything we can to keep him, but if he was to sign a permanent contract, I certainly wouldn't be against that, especially with him being available on a free transfer this summer. Moving on then to Bradford City's permanent players, starting out with Colin Doyle, and he is a man who will be looking to retire and move into a coaching role. Now, obviously, he hasn't played at all in the league this season, has played 6 times though in the Football League Trophy. I think the only match he didn't play was at Man City's under-21s, I believe, where he was actually suspended for that game. I could be wrong, it might have been Liverpool's academy, I can't really remember off the top of my head, but either way, I think at 38 years of age now, when you think Sam Walker's 32, 33, we need to either get a younger goalkeeper in who's happy to be a backup, when you think around 27, 28, who's happy just to be a backup, or you give an opportunity to someone like a Heath Richardson if he gets a new contract, or young Zach Hady. For me personally, I don't really want our backup goalkeeper next season to be a 39-year-old goalkeeper by the time next season does start, who's your goalkeeping coach. For me personally, while it can work, I just think there's too many risks with that. He's proven in the EFL Trophy at times like Derby away where he struggled and couldn't even take goal kicks come the second half, and it was proper Sunday League standard. He has made some decent saves though in the Football League Trophy. Just my personal opinion is that we should be looking to get somebody better in, and I know that it's kind of the cheaper thing to do, to have your backup goalkeeper as your goalkeeping coach, but I think with Stefan Rupp promising more money to be spent this summer, I certainly think there should be room in the budget to get a backup goalkeeper, or just give one of our younger goalkeepers more of an opportunity. For me personally, Matt Derbyshire is in a very similar situation, and again at 38 years of age, he's a man who I would be looking to not make retire, but he's kind of semi-retired this season and moved more into coaching, and I expect him to stay around for that next campaign. He hasn't actually featured in a matchday squad since the Wickham match in the Football League Trophy. His last appearance for the football club was our 4-2 defeat at home to Crawley Town, and has only made the 3 appearances under Graham Alexander. 9 matches for him this season, just the 1 start, averaging 22 minutes per game. No goals, no assists, should have never been brought in by Mark Hughes. He was just doing one of his mates a favour. Terrible signing, simply hasn't worked out. Obviously, I don't know how well he's impacting the coaching side of things, but in terms of his performances on the pitch, they were simply never ever good enough. He scored a couple of important goals last season away at Stevenage, away at Carlisle in the playoffs, but this season has contributed nothing on the pitch and definitely should not be around as a player next season. The first current permanent player contracted to Bradford City, who I will be looking to have around for next season, is young right wing back Harvey Rowe. Now, I haven't seen him play much this season. I remember seeing him play against Park Avenue in pre-season. I think he has had the odd injury again this campaign. Massively struggled last season with injuries, I do believe. This season had a 1-month loan spell with Farsley, and unfortunately SofaScore doesn't do stats that far down, but I think for me personally, you look at the options we've got going into next season at right wing back, I do think there is a pathway for Harvey Rowe to come through there, and I like what I've seen of him so far in the odd pre-season match, and like I say, I'm not going to claim to know loads about him, but I think when you look at Brad Halliday, and then we don't currently have another option really to play there. You could play Gilead there, but I expect us to go in and recruit someone in there. If you then have Harvey Rowe as that third choice, he could have his breakthrough breakthrough season next year, like what Bobby Poynton did this campaign in the odd EFL trophy match and all that sort of stuff. That's not really much to say about him because I haven't seen him play too much, but I think for me personally, there is that pathway for him next campaign, and I would be looking to keep him around. But again, wouldn't be disappointed or heartbroken if he was to move on because I haven't seen enough of him. Dylan Yumbe is next up on this list, and for me personally, I would release him. Now, he's in a very similar situation to Harvey Rowe, except because of the position that he plays, there isn't really that pathway for him in my personal opinion. He's had a couple loan spells with Farsley, and I think Scunthorpe massively struggled at Scunthorpe. Their fans kind of writ him off after just a couple of matches, saying they didn't really look interested, and at Farsley, I think he scored the odd goal here or there, but you look at the amount of strikers we're going to have here next season, you think Andy Cook, Tyler Smith, Jake Young, Verden Oliver, Callum Kavanagh, and that's not even to mention young Harry Ibbotson, who I think is probably ahead of Dylan Yumbe in most fans' eyes. Obviously did very well with the under-19s a couple seasons ago, but now we're talking about men's football. He's been nowhere near the first team really, and I don't expect that just to change next season when we're going to have more options in the position that he plays in. I just don't see that pathway coming through for him, and I think it would be unfair just to sign him to a new contract, to send him out on loan once again and hope that he kind of comes good. It's not like in his loan spells he's massively stood out, but then again, neither did Bobby Poynton last season at Farsley, so I do think it is a tough one, but I just personally don't see that pathway through for Dylan Yumbe, and that is why I would personally release him when his contract does expire this summer. Let's move on then to some actual senior players who've played a lot of football for Bradford City this season. The next player who I'll be looking to retain and have around for next campaign is Sam Stubbs. Now, his contract is set to expire again this summer. We do have the option to trigger it for a third year, and Stubbs is one of a few players on this list, similar to Oyegoke, where I could see arguments for both sides, but at 25 years of age, very good in the air, has been quite consistent for us as well. Hasn't played since the start of March due to injury. I think he fractured his skull, but in my personal opinion, I think he is more than good enough to be playing at League 2 level. I think he's proven that in the matches that he has played. At times this season, his performances have taken a little bit of a dip, and like I say, he hasn't played since the start of March, but I think going into next campaign, I think he will want to work really hard and get himself back into the side, because I think a lot of people's best back threes wouldn't feature Sam Stubbs, which if you look at the first 6 months he was here in the second half of the previous season, the playoff season, where he played quite a lot, formed a really good partnership with Platt and Romney Critchlow, and this season has only managed to 22 starts in the league, and statistically he looks quite good. 5 clean sheets, 1.9 interceptions per game, 1.6 tackles per game, 6 balls recovered per game, 4.1 at clearances per game as well. He has a 70% successful dribble rate. He wins 65% of his total duels, 64% on the ground and 66% in the air. Statistically, he's a very good defender. Obviously, he lacks the pace a little bit, but I think for me personally, another year on his contract with the option of a third of the year, I think he might struggle at League 1 level if we get there, and that's why I wouldn't be giving him a long-term contract. I don't think he's necessarily been this injury-prone centre-half we thought we were signing when he came in from Exeter, but he kind of fell out of favour there, got the move to Bradford City, and I think has very rarely let us down. Like I say, he does lack pace, but defensively, I think he's solid, and for me personally, I would keep him around for next season. The easiest decision on this list then, in my personal opinion, is Liam Rideout, and he should definitely be released. He should have been released at the end of last season, and don't get me wrong, he seems a very good pro, and he always tries his best. He never really gives in, but the quality hasn't been there for a very long time now, and like I say, shouldn't have been given the new contract at the end of last season. Got it, and then we kind of realised after the first couple of matches, oh my god, he's absolutely terrible, and we'll go and sign Lewis Richards, who unfortunately has had a number of injuries this season, which has meant Rideout has actually played in 28 of our 46 League 2 matches this season, starting 22 of them. He is now 33 years of age, and he's far too slow. He's defensively quite poor, doesn't really offer much going forward. His crossing can be okay, but the rest of his game just simply is nowhere near the standard anymore. Has actually scored 1 goal this season and also got the 1 assist, but defensively doesn't look particularly good. For a fullback, only 0.6 interceptions per game, has only managed to keep the 5 clean sheets as well, only 1 tackle per game, only 1.3 clearances per game, and the 3 most recent matches he actually played for the football club, it was a 3-0 defeat away at Harrogate, a 3-0 defeat at home to Notts County, and a 5-1 defeat at home to Mansfield Town. That just tells you that I'm not blaming it all on him, but he was really poor in all of their matches, in my personal opinion, and should definitely be released at the end of his contract. Now, the decision to release Liam Rideout was very easy, but the decision to keep Bobby Poynton is equally as easy. He absolutely has to be tied down to a new long-term contract. I did a video yesterday for Tier 3 channel members, and he featured in that, talking about how important he is that we tie him down to a new long-term contract. He broke through at the start of the campaign, got that opportunity under Mark Hughes, and looked really good in pre-season and in the few games he was getting at the start of the campaign, assisted our last minute winner at home to Grimsby live on Sky, and then kind of under McDonald and the start of Alexander, he didn't really feature all too much. Worked his way back into the side though. Alexander gave him a chance after not featuring him in a matchday squad for a long time, and once he got back into the team, you couldn't really keep him out of it, and it was a shame that it kind of took Alexander so long to realise the quality that Poynton does have. But again, he's 20 years of age, similar age to Rowe and Yumby, and you think about, you know, where they're currently playing their football this season and where Poynton has. He's made 16 starts for us in League 2, 24 appearances for him in total, 4 goals and 3 assists, a really, really good return, and he's only going to get better over the next couple of campaigns. So he's going to be a little bit of expectation and pressure on his shoulders now for next season, but I think he should be aiming at 35, 40 League 2 appearances and hoping to try and get into double figures for goals and assists. I'm not saying, you know, 10 goals, 10 assists, but if he gets, say, 7 goals and 3 assists next season, I think that would be a really good return from central midfield, and in my personal opinion, has to be retained at all costs. Heath Richardson is a man who, in my personal opinion, should be released come the end of his contract. Now, I haven't seen much of Heath Richardson, but the game that I did see him in this season was the pre-season friendly against Bradford Park Avenue, and he didn't exactly impress me in that one. And for me personally, I like the look of Zach Hady more than Heath Richardson. I think he's a couple of years younger and he's a lot taller as well. I think Hady's 6'6", whereas Heath Richardson only looks at, I guess, maybe 6'1", 6'2", and I like tall goalkeepers. I think Hady will be getting more opportunities next season. If Doyle does retire and focus more on coaching, you then have Zach Hady as a potential number 2, which I think would be a massive step up for him, and that's why I would be looking to bring in a more experienced backup. But in my personal opinion, again, I just don't see that pathway now for Heath Richardson. I think he should be released at the end of his contract. Matty Platt, in my personal opinion, is a man who we should be looking to open negotiations with and try and time down to a new contract. He's one of the few players that feature in today's video who we don't have the option to extend by a further year in his contract. I think it's him and Chapman, and at just 26 years of age now, I think statistically he's had a really good season. I'm pretty sure we've only won 1 league game this season, which Platt hasn't played in, which tells you how important he is to our side. He has had a couple of injuries this season, and that has been a big problem for us. Our most recent run of defeats and bad form was when Matty Platt actually sustained quite a serious hamstring problem against Sutton. It saw him miss around the month of football, and that is when we went on a really poor run of form. But he has featured in the 35 League 2 matches for us this season, starting 33 of them. He's actually got 2 goals and 1 assist for us, but he's kept 12 clean sheets, averaging 0.9 interceptions per game, 1.6 tackles per game, 4.7 balls recovered per game, and 4.5 clearances per game as well. He wins 65% of his ground duels and 63% of his aerial duels. He's not scared to put a tackle in as well. He has picked up the 10 yellow cards for us this season, but I think last year was very good. This year has got even better. His passing is a little bit of a concern, but I think now playing Alexander's system where we're not playing out from the back too much, it doesn't really matter all too much. And again, at just 26 years of age, he will now be coming into his prime, and for me personally, I'll be looking to tie him down to a new 2-year contract. Luke Hendry is probably a name you've not heard of for a while, but he's actually still contracted with Bradford City. He's been out on loan at Hartlepool this season. Now, while SofaScore do have statistics of Luke Hendry, they seem very inaccurate. According to this, he's failed to keep a clean sheet all season, and he's made 13 errors which have led to shots. So I'm not going to go into their statistics. He has actually not featured for Hartlepool since the middle of February, so I can only assume that is through injury. Now, you look at his time with Bradford City last season, where he only made the 2 matches and 2 appearances for us in League 2. I think that was Wimbledon at home and Swindon away. And at 29 years of age, don't get me wrong, Hendry isn't a bad backup, but I certainly don't see him filling in for Brad Halliday next season. I think we need better than Luke Hendry, so in my personal opinion, I think he should be released. Jamie Walker is a man who I think can divide the fan base a little bit, but in my personal opinion, I think he should be retained. I think the only thing that fans have concerns and questions about with Jamie Walker is his fitness, and he has only managed the 27 starts for us in League 2 this season. He always seems to pick up a 2, 3, 4 month injury every season, and he's been with the club now for 2.5 years, half a season on loan, 2 years permanently. Again, we've got the option to extend it by a further year. He is now 30 years of age, but I think when he's fit and available, he's proven his quality. In his last, 4 matches, he has picked up 3 goals and 2 assists, and also a red card in there. But his statistics from this season then, 30 matches in League 2 at 27 starts, 8 goals, 5 assists. It's an absolutely brilliant return, 13 goal contributions from just 27 starts. When he's fit and available, he has proven to be a very good player for us, and he's a big game player, loves a goal in a big game. You look at his performance in our 3-2 win away at Walsall, gets 2 goals, gets an assist, and get himself sent off as as well in a 3-2 win when we've gone 2-0 down. For me personally, I think Walker is massive for us, and like I say, his injuries are a little bit of a problem, but they're not normally muscular injuries. They're not normally contact injuries like his broken leg that he had this season, which was a horrible tackle and somehow only ended up in a yellow card again from another Doncaster player. But for me personally, Jamie Walker is a man who we need to be retaining. Similarly to Luke Hendry, Thinkers and Dawson is another name you've probably not heard of for a while, as he hasn't actually played for Bradford City since February 2022. He's had a couple of loan spells. Obviously, it was under Ryan Sparks' regime of giving him a long-term contract to some of the other players like Reece Staunton, and I think also got a long-term deal at the football club. But Thinkers and Dawson, his contract is set to expire this summer, and I would leave it at that and release him. He's proven that over the last couple of seasons, he's clearly not ready for first-team football. He's now 22 years of age, and I think there's a lot better out there than Cousin Dawson. He hasn't been too bad, to be fair, at Blythe Spartans. I'm pretty sure they actually got relegated, though, from the National League North. I think he also completed the most amount of passes, or had the highest pass completion rate in the entire division. It was some sort of statistic like that, but I don't think he's anywhere near good enough to be playing for Bradford City. Like I say, I haven't seen him play much football over the last couple of seasons, but in his time at Bradford City, and when you look at how his career has gone since then, I don't think he's ready for first team football, and at 22 years of age, I don't think he'll ever be ready, in my personal opinion. Brad Halliday is a very easy and simple one, and he is a man who absolutely needs to be retained for the next couple of campaigns. 2 3-year contracts, either way, I'm not really bothered. He's been brilliant for us over the last 2 seasons. Again, we know we've got that option to trigger it for a further year, but not only does he deserve a pay rise, he deserves a long-term contract as well. 28 years of age, so he is now coming into his prime, but Alexander has got the best out of him this season. You look at the start of the campaign where he wasn't getting that much football because Oyegoke was brought in and replaced Halliday, who wasn't too bad, to be fair, in the previous season. He got more assists last season, did Brad Halliday, 1 goal and 5 assists for him. This season, though, he's ended up with more goal contributions, 4 goals and 4 assists. Recently, in his last 5 matches, picking up 2 goals and 1 assist, and I think that's a really good return for right wing back. But defensively, his stats are outstanding. In his 41 starts for the football club this season, he managed to keep 14 clean sheets, averaging 1.4 interceptions per game, 2.8 tackles per game, 5.7 balls recovered per game, and 1.2 clearances per game as well. He did actually commit 2 penalty offences and only picked up the 5 yellow cards as well, and in my personal opinion, comfortably the best right wing back in the division. There's a reason why he got into the team this season. Has been outstanding, especially towards the end of the campaign, but has been consistent throughout the whole campaign. Has only really had 1 or 2 bad games all season, and if he isn't a Bradford City player next season, I think it'll be an absolute crime. The penultimate player on this list and the final player who I would release is winger Harry Chapman. Now, this season in League 2 has only managed 3 starts for the football club, has made 15 appearances in total, no goals and 2 assists in the league. Hasn't been too bad in the Football League Trophy. He missed the first couple of months of the season with that hamstring injury picked up towards the second half of the previous campaign, but Harry Chapman hasn't had the game time this season, and I certainly don't see him getting more game time next season when we're hoping to get better players in this summer. Has played the odd couple of matches recently, but a lot of them being on off the bench, and hasn't really provided that impact that you want to see. I think at 26 years of age, for the money he's probably on, obviously came in from Championship side Blackburn as a Charles Vernon replacement and has never really had the output. Just the 2 goal contributions in the league for him this season. Last season didn't get many more than that, only got 5 last season, so statistically hasn't quite had the output. And you could maybe argue that when he has played, you know, he's output hasn't been too bad, but in my personal opinion, I don't think he's the right type of player for a Graham Alexander system. I think for the money he's probably on, with the age that he's currently at, I don't think he's providing enough, in my personal opinion. I think that money would be better spent elsewhere. So for me personally, Harry Chapman is a man who I will be looking to release. But again, he's similar to someone like a Sam Stubbs, Daniel Oyegoke. I can see arguments for both sides, but in my personal opinion, I don't think he contributes enough, and I would personally release him. And the final player then on this list, and the final player who will be looking to retain for next campaign, is a man who probably splits the fan base the most, the captain, Richie Smallwood. Again, his deal is set to expire this summer. We have the option to trigger it for a further season. He is now 33 years of age, but for me personally, I think he's an absolute must keep, and I think it's pretty obvious that he is definitely going to be around for next season. Alexander is clearly a big fan of him, has made the 39 starts for us in League 2 this season, 42 in total in League 2, has recently got a couple of goal contributions in there, penalty away at Grimsby, 2 assists in the last match against Newport, were actually his only league goal contributions this season. But out of possession, very good at 2.4 tackles per game, at 6.4 balls recovered per game, 1.1 at clearances per game, game as well. He's a very good leader, and I know that at times he kind of strops around a little bit and he gets very disappointed, but I think for me personally that just shows that he cares. He wants the best for Bradford City, and when players aren't performing and when the team's not performing, it shows that it kind of hurts him deep down that he's the captain of the side and he's not able to get the positive results. But he seems to always want to front the criticism. I think at times his set pieces have been poor, but then also at times he's scored from quite a lot of his set pieces recently, and I do think a large part of his set pieces comes down to your set piece coach. And under Mike Hughes, our set pieces were terrible, weren't they really? I mean, that routine we'd have where I think Gilead would normally pass it short to Smallwood, who'd run away from the edge of the penalty area and then try and whip a ball in first time. It was never really going to work. There's a reason why Smallwood is playing in League 2, but out of possession, I think he has been very good. His set pieces recently have certainly improved quite a lot, and some people will say, well, Smallwood needs to do it over a couple of seasons, not just the last 5 matches, but for me personally, under Graham Alexander, I think he's been a man reborn, and out of possession is so important to us. Never shirks a tackle, always wins his 50-50s, and in my personal opinion, should be retained for next campaign, or even maybe 2 years. To confirm then, the players who I wouldn't be looking to have around for next campaign are Colin Doyle, who I would let retire and move into a full-time coaching role, and also Matt Derbyshire, who I think is in a similar situation. And then the players who will release then are Heath Richardson, Luke Hendry, Finn Cousin-Dawson, Liam Rideout, Harry Chapman, Tariq Wright, obviously in on loan, but I won't be looking to have him around for next season, and also Dylan Yumby. So the players who I definitely want around for next season are Brad Halliday, Daniel Ugoke, only on a permanent deal though, Harvey Rowe, Jonathan Tompkinson, obviously at this moment in time in on loan, but I would have him back either as a permanent or a loan next season, Matty Platt, Sam Stubbs, Richie Smallwood, Jamie Walker and Bobby Poynton. So the list in full then, in position order, is now next to me. Let me know down below, do you agree, do you disagree? I'm sure that there's got to be something that you disagree with, and that's the beautiful thing about football. It's all about opinions, and at the end of the day, all our opinions don't really matter all too much as long as we don't see something stupid like Brad Halliday released and Liam Rideout gets a new 3-year contract, which knowing Bradford City, we wouldn't really want to put it past them, would we? I'm going to touch wood just in case. I think Graham Alexander confirmed in his post-match interview at the weekend that he's set to have meetings with the players tomorrow and on Wednesday, so you expect the return list to come out around Thursday, Friday sort of time potentially. Normally they put it out at Friday, 6 PM. That's what I would personally guess off the top of my head, but you never really know with Bradford City. Whenever the return list does officially get announced, I will do a video for that, but this is my personal return list. Like I said, there are a few players who I am undecided on, like Oyugoke, Sam Stubbs and also Harry Chapman. I can certainly see the arguments either way. Thank you all very much though for watching today's video. If you have enjoyed it, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try and hit 100 likes, as I said at the start of today's video, that would be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We are on the road to 9,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed. If you haven't already, with that post notification bell on, it's free to do so, and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts in as well down in the comment section down below. Which players do you think we need to retain? Which players do you think we need to release as well? And what would you do with our 3 current loanees? Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon for another one. Peace.